the show. This show is all about you. Not you, but you and your stories. Because everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer. Everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer. Brought to you by JeffSeltzer.com.
Hello and welcome to Everybody Has a Story with Jeff Seltzer. I am your host, Jeff Seltzer, and this is episode 68 of my own personal midlife crisis. So thank you all for joining and listening as you tend to do. A few things I wanted to talk about, I guess, this week. It's been a few weeks since I put out my last episode with Joanna Rodriguez, which was episode 67, which weirdly has, I don't want to say set the world on fire, but has set my personal podcast records on fire. Firstly, I really enjoyed my conversation with Joanna. It was a great conversation. I think she was super honest, and I think we really got into a good place talking back and forth about the realities of working corporate America and about just in general, how things impact in life. So a couple of things I wanted to talk about on that. So firstly, to give you a little bit of an epilogue, since we recorded that, which was probably, I want to say about a month ago or so, Joanna has found a new role, and as far as I'm aware, she's been working for about 2 weeks or so in her new role. So really excited that she was able to, utilize the journey. She was able to learn from her experiences and land in a place that she's now employed, which is what her goal was. So super excited for Joanna, and obviously happy to see what happens with her going forward. What I will say though is weirdly, and I don't know if it's a case of the universe doing weird things, or if it's her network or right place, right time, or the topic. But in 2 or 3 weeks or so of the podcast being out, it is already my number 2 most streamed podcast of all time. So think about that. We've put out 68 episodes so far over the last almost 2 years. So most of the episodes have had anywhere from a month to almost 2 years to get listeners, to get viewers, and things like that. But this episode with Joanna about changing and looking to what's next and stuff like that, racked up more streams, more interest, more views than any other episode with a significantly less amount of time, which is insane to me. Now, I think part of it is Joanna obviously had a great story to share. She was very honest. So word of mouth definitely helps. I'll say also potentially her network, and little by little more people are listening and watching the podcast based off of that. Additionally, what I wanted to add too was I think in the episode Joanna, and I'd recorded a month ago, so the data was a little bit dated. At that point, I had announced that we just hit our 35th country. That I think as of that week, 5 new countries had listened to the podcast for the first time. Weirdly, so since then, so in the last 3 weeks or so since I recorded with Joanna, I'm now up to 52 countries, which is insane to me. So that means, if my math is correct, which it probably is, if I carry the 2 and whatever else like that, we've picked up 17 new countries in the last 3 weeks since we talked to Joanna, which is amazing. Some of the countries I think I've posted about already on Instagram, but for some of the countries, in case I haven't, or in case you weren't aware, we picked up Kazakhstan, Uruguay, Guatemala, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Venezuela, and a bunch of others. So for me, it's like I said in the last episode, I'm just always blown away when people who are, let's say, outside of my network, or people that don't know me personally, find the episodes or find the podcast, listen to it, and either send me a comment or just consume the content here. It just intrigues me. It blows me away that anybody would welcome me, I guess verbally or visually, into their car or into their home or into whatever part of life they have. That this maybe if this makes their life a little more interesting or makes them a little happier, or just gives them something to think about. For me, that feels really cool. So for those of you that have been listening since before day one, or listening over the last 2 years, or just found this in the last, let's say, couple of days, I do want to extend my gratitude and my appreciation and thank you for coming with me on this journey, and for listening, and for giving me an opportunity to hopefully entertain you, or at least maybe educate or give you another data point that you haven't had before. So thank you so much. And to those who've just found the show for the first time, again, this is episode 68. So there are 67 episodes before this. I would say don't go listen to every episode. Some of the episodes are fantastic. Some of them are good enough. Some of them are interesting. find a topic you like. They're not all going to resonate with you. Some are wrestling, some are entertainment, some are corporate America. Find a topic you like, find something you like, and just listen to that and pick up a couple of them and see what you like. Send me a message on Instagram if you find an episode that you love, or if you want to hear more about, or you want to talk about, or whatever. And that would be amazing. So I guess it's a good time to have the plugs then. So for those of you that aren't aware, the show's Instagram page is at Everybody Has a Story Pod. The YouTube for the show is at Everybody Has a Story Pod. For all things Jeff Seltzer, you can always check me out at jeffseltzer.com. If you want to email the show directly, you can always email the show at everybodyhasastorypod@gmail.com. Reminder, the show is available via video on Spotify and YouTube, on audio on all podcast platforms, on Spotify, YouTube, as well as Amazon, Apple, iHeartRadio, Pandora, you name it, it's probably there. One interesting note I'll say is in one of the most recent Apple iOS updates, they've added video podcasts to Apple Podcasts. I looked deep and I looked hard into how I could possibly get this video podcast, if you're watching on video, or the video version of this podcast onto Apple Podcasts. The challenge is I don't know that I can. So without getting too deep into the weeds, this show is platformed on Spotify. So when I record the episode, I upload it to Spotify, and then Spotify basically syndicates it out to the different platforms, to Amazon, to Apple, to Pandora, to all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure if it's an exclusivity thing with Spotify, or Apple and Spotify just don't like each other, but Apple will not pull in the video version of the podcast from Spotify. So I think I could probably figure out a way at some point, maybe if I can figure out how to either parallel host the show or somehow post it directly to Apple. I'm not quite sure how to do that or where I'm at. If anybody out there has any ideas, shoot me a note, let me know. I'm trying to make this, as available as possible to many people. I mean, from a video perspective, it is available on YouTube and Spotify. So I think most people in the world, or at least in this country, have the opportunity to see it that way. I'm an Apple house, so I much prefer to, I guess, utilize Apple if possible. So if anybody has any ideas of how to get the video version of this podcast up to Apple, would love to get your feedback. I'll keep doing research. I'm sure at some point me or maybe someone way smarter than me will figure it out. So let me know. Really try to figure out how to do it. It would be really, really amazing. Couple of things. This isn't going to be a long podcast for the week. I just wanted to kind of get an episode out because it's been a few weeks, and also to obviously share some of the information that I have, but also because I do tend to get a little anxiety sometimes when I spend too much time between episodes. I start thinking about like, hey, I just want to get it out there, kind of just get an episode published and have, get it there, I guess. Because oftentimes it's out of sight, out of mind, and I want to make sure that it doesn't drop too far down people's podcast lists. But at the same time, I don't know. It's just fun. I do enjoy this. Even the solo pods like this one too, right? Like I usually try to get a guest, but when I don't have a guest and I talk to myself and hopefully to other people that are out there, it's a different skill set that I'm trying to work on or improve. So this is fun as well, even if I'm just, staring at myself and talking to the wall. Wanted to call out the fact that in the past, I've mentioned multiple times that I generally wear a Chicago Cubs baseball cap, yet I have zero interest in baseball. Very weird, and I get that. I just love the logo. I love the merchandising, and I just like the look of the hat. Challenge is, over the years, I've gotten into a lot of conversations that I don't really want to be a part of. So multiple times I've had people approach me either and say, hey, it's going to be a great year for the Cubs. And I usually just smile and give a throwaway line that, like, hey, it'll be good, or I'm looking forward to it, or hopefully it's better than last season, or something dumb like that, right? Or I've even had, like, years ago, I think I had during COVID, I had a Chicago Cubs COVID mask. And a guy approached me and was like, Chicago Cubs, what part of Chicago are you from? And I was like, I live in New Jersey. And he literally just rolled his eyes and walked away. So, I'd like to not involve myself in those types of situations. So over the last couple of weeks, I've started wearing, let's say, hats that are more in my interest. So things that, in theory, if somebody approached me for a conversation, I could talk to. I don't necessarily want to have conversations all the time, but at least I'm more equipped to it. So recently I've been wearing Disney World hats. That's obviously right in my wheelhouse. So if somebody says, hey, Disney, I'm like, yeah, Disney, or something like that, right? But I do give a lot of advice, or I talk a lot about Disney. So it's something that I think I'm a lot more comfortable talking about and gets me into less awkward conversations. My older daughter, Robin, just decided what school she's going to go to from a college perspective. So I've been wearing a hat for that school recently too. It says the name of the school and then dad. So kind of aging myself a little bit in the fact that, I have a kid that's going to college soon. But at the same time, it's definitely something that I'm more interested in talking about versus who's the shortstop on the Chicago Cubs, which somebody tell me. I have no idea. I'm sure I could research it, but I don't know that I care enough to look right now. So again, one of my things I'm trying to do is trying to get myself into better situations, more comfortable conversations. This is something that my kids and my wife have been saying for years. I should stop wearing hats for things that I don't know much about. I think the key is, like, for me, I'm not necessarily looking for conversations. I just like the looks of things. And so people like to talk to me about things, I guess. And I often have said, and people often say to me also, that I have a very approachable face, which is weird. I mean, I think it's because I do smile a lot. I'm fairly happy-go-lucky. I'm fairly friendly. And for some reason, I look like I know what I'm talking about sometimes. Like, I could be walking in New York City and have no idea where I am in a sea of like hundreds of people. And a random person will say, hey, do you know where such and such is? And I'm like, I don't know. But it's just interesting to me that, like, of everybody in the area, I'll be the person that's pointed out. So again, maybe by switching up my hat or what I wear, it'll change up how approached I am or what people approach me about. I don't know. But we'll see what happens. Let's, one day at a time. We'll learn from this experience, and hopefully we'll have a story or not that we can share at some point. Last thing I wanted to talk about, actually, I have a couple of things we're going to talk about, so let's keep moving here. So earlier in the year, actually back on the New Year's episode with a friend of the show, pal of the show, buddy of the show, Marcus Brandon, we had talked about New Year's resolutions for 2026. So in 2025, my goal was to average 10,000 steps per day, which for me was a challenge. I don't naturally walk 10,000 steps per day. I'm way too efficient, and I way too, just do what I need to do from a steps perspective, as opposed to, taking extra steps to, keep myself in shape and get where I need to get to. But I did it. So that was the check. For 2026, my extended goal was continue the 10,000 steps per day average, but not only that, average 10,000 steps per day per month. So basically keep doing what I did in 2025, but at the same time, don't give myself the opportunity to make up for it after a light month. So make sure that, I don't have, like, let's say 2 or 3 months from at 8,000 and 2 or 3 months at 12,000. Make sure every specific month has an average of 10,000 steps per month or more. January, I did it, not a problem. February, I did it, also not a problem. March was close, but I still did do it. April, I felt really good about. So April, I had a trip to Disney Universal, and then I had a trip to Las Vegas for WrestleMania. So through like mid to late April, I was doing fantastic. I was probably about 11,000 or 11,005 steps per day for the month. Then when I got back from Vegas, I came down with a gnarly sinus infection, which I oftentimes get. I'll get them once or twice a year. Usually like allergies will turn into a sinus infection. And then that kind of like knocks me down for a little while. Challenge was when I had that sinus infection, I wasn't feeling like taking steps. So first couple of days of the sinus infection, even though I was already at like 10 or 10,000, maybe like 11 or 11,500 steps per day, I was doing like 2,000 steps a day when I got home from Vegas with the sinus infection. So very quickly, I saw my average steps per day for the month just plummet. Because, it only takes a few days of not many steps, and all of a sudden the average does what the average does. So I had to work really hard the last few days of April. And I did finally get my steps average back up to over 10,000. I started off thinking I was going to hit like maybe 12,000 steps per day per month based on, Disney steps and Vegas steps. But then, unfortunately with my sickness, I eventually had to, do what I could just to barely get above 10,000. Lesson here, I guess, for myself and for anybody else who's listening, is don't leave things for the last minute. If I did not get all those Disney steps and Vegas steps, and I just averaged like barely 10,000, and then I got a sinus infection and I wasn't doing much steps at all, it would have been really, really impossible to hit my goal for the end of the month. So I think there's a lesson, for anybody who wants to take it, but specifically for me, I always try to make sure I don't leave things to the last minute. And this just kind of, reinforces that thought process and the fact that I probably should, continue to, do things, not just from a steps perspective, but just like in life in general. Like, don't leave it to the last minute. Anything can happen. So take that for however you'd like to. Something else I wanted to bring up too. So as you guys all know, I love movies. For me, it's a form of therapy. It's a way to kind of like escape life sometimes, escape reality. And for me, I'm just like totally just like, I love the process. I love the visuals. And sitting in a movie theater, oftentimes, I love the fact that I'm disconnected, right? If you're in your house, whether watching TV or a movie, oftentimes you'll take out your phone or your iPad, or you get distracted or whatever, right? And that's, which is fine if that's what you're looking for. But oftentimes for me, I'm looking for like a true escape. So first of all, from a statistic perspective, I will say I've seen 53 movies this year, not 53 in theaters, but 53 different movies between home and theaters, which I will say is outpacing the last few years, where usually I hit 53 around like mid-July. So I'm like 2 months ahead of time, which, says whatever it says, I guess, right? Okay. So I have the AMC A-list movie deal. This is not an ad. This is not a paid promotion, but it's one of those things where it's like $28 a month. I can see up to 4 movies per week at AMC movie theaters. Generally, I say if I could see 2 movies a month on average at the theaters, at break even or probably a little bit above. Last weekend, I wanted to go to the movies, but there really wasn't anything I wanted to see. AMC had something on Sunday called AMC Unseen, which the general premise is you show up, you don't know what movie it's going to be, and then they basically show like a movie that's coming out in a few weeks. I think it's probably from a promotional perspective, their way of getting like PR or buzz for movies before they come out. So that way you see the movie and then maybe you talk to somebody or post about it. And then when it actually comes out, people, already know about it or know if it's good or not good or else like that. So I did a little research ahead of time. I saw the length of the movie and the rating. So before going into it, I had a sense of what the movie might be, or let's say I had a hope for what the movie might be. But I was like, it could be any movie. Let's see, right? This is very spontaneous, which I'd say for me is very out of character. I'm very planned out. And for me, going into a movie without knowing what it's going to be is definitely not the typical Jeff thing to do. But with that said, with my AMC deal, if the movie started and it wasn't something I wanted to see, I could have very easily pivoted to another movie in the theater because, again, I got 4 movies a week, so I could have just scanned something else and gotten to see it. Okay, so show up at the theater, I'd say it was probably about a third full. Definitely, I'd say middle-aged to older in terms of an audience. I was trying to gauge if anybody had a sense of what the movie was going to be. I didn't ask anybody. I just kind of sat in the corner with my my peanut butter M&Ms and my Mr. Pibb. But I sat there and I definitely was looking around to see who was there and kind of that kind of stuff. 2 o'clock starts, and all of a sudden trailers stop popping up. And at that point, I was like, I really just kind of get a little antsy, a little anxious to see what movie it was going to be. Was really hopeful that like at 2 o'clock, it would say like, hey, the movie is going to be whatever it is. But that wasn't the case. They basically treated it like a regular movie that you already know what it's going to be. So trailers start, Nicole Kidman does her thing, all that kind of stuff. And then they had like a real quick 45-second like clip where it's like a teaser for like the AMC Unseen, I guess, thing that they do, because they do this from time to time. And I'm waiting, and everyone else is waiting for, something to say on the screen, like the movie is going to be whatever it is. Still don't know what the movie is, but like I'm very curious and very kind of like, okay, well, how am I going to spend the next 2 hours watching? What are we going to see? Finally, all of a sudden, all the pre-movie reels are done. Movie's about to start, and then on the screen it says, "Thank you, welcome, and please enjoy this movie, The Sheep Detectives, starring Hugh Jackman." At which point, like I was excited because it's a movie that I'd seen a trailer for a few months ago, and I thought it looked cute, looked interesting, and it was, in honesty, the movie that I thought it was going to be, based on the fact that it's rated PG. It was advertised, this one, as a hour 55. I think Sheep Detectives is like an hour and 50. So I was pretty spot on with what I thought it was going to be, which was good. I mean, if they had said like, hey, our sight unseen movie is The Notebook, I'm not sure how thrilled I would have been. But this was one that I was looking forward to, so I was excited for it. So as soon as they announced the movie, just, thinking about my older daughter, Robin, who loves to do this, I started applauding because I was excited that it was that. And the entire theater applauded as well. So it seems like it was appropriate. It wasn't too out of line. So saw the movie. It was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. It hits theaters this weekend. So, it's a very safe movie for the most part. It's fun. It's entertaining. It's got some laughs, some funny stuff too. So I would say if you're looking for a good family movie and you don't want to see Mortal Kombat 2, which is probably not a good family movie, definitely consider seeing this one. It was a fun movie. I enjoyed it in theaters. If you can wait till it's on streaming, you probably do that also, but definitely worth spending your time and checking out The Sheep Detectives, starring Hugh Jackman, which was in theaters, I guess, now at this point. So that was different for me because, again, like I said before, I'm generally very planned out. I generally don't like surprises. I mean, my wife hates surprises, but for me, I generally stay away from surprises. I generally try to plan things out so I know what to expect. Probably says a little bit more about me than you need to know. But at the same time, it was fun. I'll probably do it again in the future. I know from time to time they have like horror movies sight unseen, so I'll probably go check out some of those at some point too. But this was good. I really enjoyed it, so definitely worth checking out, I would say. So do it or don't. It's up to you. Last thing for the week, and then I'm going to call it, I think, right now, is a few weeks ago on Instagram, I'd asked for some topics. So I said, hey, we're actually put out a lot of episodes, but or else like that. What do you want to hear us talk about, or what do you want to hear on the podcast? So I'm not going to name any names, but the first person who responded back said Play-Doh, to which, in honesty, I haven't really used or seen Play-Doh, at least in, let's say, my older daughter is 16. So it's been at least a decade, probably more than a decade at this point. So I have little experience with it. All I'll say is I remember it being fun. Could be messy. I loved all the different accessories and play sets they had with it. You can put it in and you can make like what looks like spaghetti, like fun things like that, make weird shapes, whatever. So that was cool. I'm not sure what she wanted me to talk to about Play-Doh, but if you have any opinions on Play-Doh, send me a message. Let me know. Would love to hear. Do you use Play-Doh? Do you like Play-Doh? Is Play-Doh even still a thing? I'm not sure. But with that said, have fun with it and let's see what we got. Another one, not surprisingly, from a friend of the show, Marcus Brandon, was about being a male feminist. So what I'll say is this: I do oftentimes make comments that I'm a male feminist, or just I'm a feminist. I mean, I think my gender is probably irrelevant in that point of the conversation. My general thought is I think everybody should have equal rights. I don't think either gender is better or worse. I think individuals could be better or worse. But any gender or any situation or any community or population that, let's say, has had a tough time or has been mistreated, obviously I want to do everything I can to support and give them the opportunities that they haven't had in the past. I have a wife, I have 2 daughters. So I do want to make sure that they have every opportunity and then some that people before them haven't had, right? So keeping in mind, like in the 60s and 70s, like women couldn't have their own bank account. Right. There were situations that, like, not necessarily my lifetime, but very close to my lifetime, the equal rights that, people celebrate today or have today, for the most part, like didn't exist, only a few decades ago, which is crazy to me. Right. The whole different water fountains thing, like things like that just feels really, really weird. It feels like it should have been like thousands of years ago. And, there were plenty of people who lived through, the pre and the post, which is crazy to me. Right. So I'm not going to get too deep into this because this could obviously get into a tangent that will probably either get me canceled or uncanceled, or maybe it'll get me a viewers or listeners that I either want or don't want. I don't know what that even means. But with that said, back to Marcus's comment, I want to make sure that, everybody has an opportunity. Everybody has the rights that they should have. And I mean, it even goes beyond that, I would say, like I've always said before, like even at work or like, professionally, I want to make sure that like entry-level employees can learn from my experiences and other experiences around me. I want to make sure that they don't make the same mistakes that I made. I want to make sure that they're in a much better situation to succeed. And I want to make sure that, the generation, in front of me does better than the generation behind me. So I don't know if it's necessarily about being a feminist, but it's largely about just trying to leave this world or leave this society a better place than the way that I found it. Making sure that, society before me, is better now, and making sure society now is better in the future. Generally my thoughts. Again, probably I'm rambling a bit here, but I guess that's what happens when I don't have a guest. I'm just kind of staring at myself talking at times. So that would be that. Lastly, from a podcast episode or topic perspective, daughter of the show, Allison Seltzer, had requested that we do a topic about Benson Boone. So this goes back to pop music, right? So I've talked about over the last number of episodes that I love most music, excluding country music. Benson Boone is a popular pop star, let's say. I've seen him twice in concert now. I saw him with Allison about 2 years ago at a charity like radio concert. It was fantastic. It was Benson Boone. It was New Kids on the Block. It was Justin Timberlake. Who else was there? Tate McRae. Awesome show, right? Like they all played their hits. It was fantastic. Benson's a great performer. For those who haven't seen him before, he does all sorts of flips. He does all sorts of stuff while he's singing. He has a lot of great, just catchy bop songs as well. So definitely fun. Then last year, so back in 2025, myself, both my kids and my wife went to the Garden and saw him and his first time playing at the Garden, Madison Square Garden, New York City, which was awesome. Really fun show. Again, really, really great night out. And then Allison and I are going to see Benson Boone at the Prudential Center with one of Allison's friends in July. So that'll be a fun show as well. Is Benson Boone my favorite pop artist that's out right now? Not really. I think he's got some good songs. I think he's it's very catchy. He's very entertaining. But with that said, I mean, I love the fact that my daughter has resonated with music. She is an artist that she likes. And I love the fact that we can go together to go see performances. So lots of fun, really cool stuff. And that's that. So if you haven't seen Benson Boone perform before and you're into his music or his type of music, definitely go check him out. I think it's July, I want to say 14th at Prudential Center, something like that. So definitely check it out. It might be sold out, might not be. Either way, there are other ways to get tickets. So that's that. In any event, hope you're still with me. Again, I wanted to once again thank everybody for listening to and watching the podcast, for coming with me on this journey. I do have a guest scheduled for next week. Should be a fun one. Haven't recorded that episode yet, so I don't want to tease what it is just in case things move. But with that said, it should be an interesting one that I think everyone will learn a lot from, and I think people can relate to as well from different perspectives. So come back next week, check out some of my older episodes, and just, again, let me know what you think. I'm always very curious. I'm looking to it. As Beth always tells me, feedback is a gift. So trying to find out what I can, trying to learn whatever I can about the podcast, trying to learn how I can make it better, trying to understand like what it is people like about it, what people don't necessarily like about it, that kind of stuff. So let me know. Check it out on Instagram at Everybody Has a Story Pod. Again, DM the show if you want to. Let me know your thoughts on the show, or if you want to be a guest, that works as well. Really looking for future guests, have some cool topics, have some guests planned, but at the same time, always looking for additional people to speak to and to share their stories with as well. You can find the show on YouTube at Everybody Has a Story Pod. You can always email the show at everybodyhasastorypod@gmail.com. For all things Jeff Seltzer, you can always check me out at jeffseltzer.com. The show, as you know, is available via video on Spotify and YouTube. Show is available on all podcast platforms for audio, Spotify and YouTube, as well as Amazon, Apple, iHeartRadio, Pandora, anywhere you can find a podcast. If you can't find the podcast on your platform of choice, let me know, and I will do everything I can to get it posted there. With that said, have an amazing week, and come back next week, and we'll see what we got. Take care. Bye.
Everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer. 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 Everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer.